Mr. Teotw?
Shalom.
Shalom.
Can you hear me?
Speak up. You sound low.
Hold on. Let me check my mic. Something's not right with my mic. Hold up.
So who's the Hebrew of Israel?
Oh,
That
Shalom.
is great.
Shalom. Yeah, Ivry.
It's Hebrew.
That's Avery.
Ivry? Oh, okay.
Let's see. Is this any better? Is it still low?
No,
Yeah, no, we can.
I hear you.
Okay. All right. Hey, so we got Sister E in here, so she can sort of do what she does best, right?
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right. So Shalom.
Hold on. Wait.
Okay.
I want to say something real quick. I'm driving, right? So I'm just grabbing. I got to pick up food for my family, so I might be in and out. So
Okay.
be patient with me. It's going to take me like 15 minutes, but I'm here. Whatever I can hear, I'll in, and then I'll chime in. Y'all let me know if you hear me or not, and then we'll go from there. But I should be back in the house in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
All right.
So welcome, Cherie, Avery, Teotw, Yaaap, and Sean. I guess we can start. I guess the whole premise of this conversation is based off of, I guess, the events that transpired for the past couple of days, as it pertains to DNA and as it pertains to the concept of how it aligns with who we are as being Israel. And I think after the conversation with Yaaap and Teotw, they kind of asked me to stand in the middle and allow you all to talk. And I will say this, that I will stand in the middle. I won't interject. I'm not taking any sides. Let me make that clear. I'm not taking any sides. But what I will do is ensure that, one, we all try to be as
DNA testing.
That we try to be as respectful as possible. That's key. And be fine with that we may not agree. But as we walk in certain aspects of our belief that we are not in agreement with, that we can still walk in unity. And that's my goal. And just kill the slandering. I know that we have a lot of outsiders that are adding to the fire, fuel to the fire, and all I want us to do is just kill the fire and try our best to walk together in unity. So I guess we can start with
First thing, I would like for somebody, one of the Teotw brothers, one of y'all, if y'all don't mind, could y'all somebody say a prayer for us real quick as we go into this?
Yes.
Can we open with a prayer?
So Teotw, can you do that?
Sure. Father, I ask that you come into our hearts today and give us peace of mind, give us ears to hear. Let us have compassion and empathy and sympathy for one another. Let us be able to pay attention and hear for a change instead of thinking that we understand, and that's on both sides. Let us just walk by your spirit and let you guide us, and let peace reign in the midst of this conversation. In Yahushua's name.
Amen.
Shalom.
Okay, so we can. How do y'all want to start?
I could start. I appreciate Sister Cherie reaching out. I know our sister care about Teotw Ministries. I do. I know Brother Sean been with us as well. Quick question though, because from our perspective, we were off radar when it comes to DNA, and somehow we got back on radar. Are you guys somehow aware at all why all of a sudden we got on the radar of DNA when we really hadn't talked about it? I mean, that's just a puzzle to us.
Yeah, sure. You kind of going in and out. Where are you?
Hold on, let me grab my.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab my headset because
you sound good now. I don't know what you just did, but you sound really good now.
My face into the keyboard. What about now?
Yeah, we can hear you, sis.
Yeah,
okay.
That's good.
From my understanding, from looking at the Facebook and everything like that, it looks like a booster at this pot. He brought up something in the Rumble Room comparing Yaaap Genesis 49ers view on haplogroups to your view on haplogroups, and then he followed up with going on Berean, and then Minister Teotw jumped on Berean, and then Yaaap jumped on Berean, and I kind of think that's where it came from, Abu bringing in old stuff from what you guys had said, I don't know how long ago, and the new stuff that Genesis 49ers did on Berean and on their own channel.
Okay, thanks. So, are you guys, have you all put any effort in looking at autosomal? And if so, is there a reason why autosomal is not valid for you guys or invalid? And then, from there, I can explain our concerns with haplogroup. But yeah, if you can answer that.
Yeah, so I've specifically dealt with autosomal DNA and Y-DNA, and personally for me, I use both autosomal DNA and Y-DNA when it comes. Well, I try to do my best to use everything. Language, archaeology, customs, culture, stuff like that. So that being said, I use both Y-DNA and autosomal DNA. I have no problem with it, but I have a particular way that I do use it though. So, and I think the rest of Yaaap also use a little bit of both, depending on the way you're going to do it.
So,
right.
But from the since autosomal, well, specifically, let's say YSTR profiling, YSTR profiling, even though it's not, you can that's against the Y chromosome. You can also do STR profiling against autosomes, but the whole idea is that you're looking and getting a count, and I guess that count is calculated in centimorgans. And a lot of times, like if you look at JIP, it's translated as distance, but normally when you're looking at autosomal, it's counted in centimorgans, and the more centimorgans, the more closely related you are to that person. So usually they express that in generations, right? Second generation, third, fourth, generation, and fourth cousin, things like that, right? So there's a way to measure the distance and the relationship using autosomal, and really can tie back to your relative, right? So it's the very thing, as I often say, will make you pay child support. And so if we're looking for our forefathers, I think the YSTR profiling on the Y chromosome, which is doing similar things as you do with autosomal, which is matching looking at the locations on that chromosome and finding matches. And so it lets you say, well, I can comfortably say this guy is my dad, or this guy is my grandfather, my great grandfather, etc. And so with haplogroup, the problem we have with that is for example, the assumption, and I don't know if you guys make this assumption, but in one way or another, it's applied no matter what haplogroup we're talking about. But let's just say E1B1A, for example. The haplogroup, we pick one and say it's Israel, and I don't know if you guys are doing that, but this is what I'm hearing.
Our group isn't, just to clarify. No, sir.
Yeah, we're actually saying that E is Shemitic. We're not.
We're
starting from the baseline first, right? Because we don't have Jacob's DNA. We don't have Abraham's, but we do have the Natufian, right? We do know, and peer-reviewed papers and articles have said that they are Shemitic. So we're starting from the baseline of Shem. That's how we're doing it. But go ahead, brother.
Okay, so all right, so based on one archaeological find on the Natufians, which I think they're E1B1B, right? And so from there we conclude, based on European research, that okay, these are Shemitic people, but there's a lot of Shemitic people, right? I mean, Ishmael was Shemitic. Ishmael was a son of Abraham. Ishmael and Isaac had the same haplogroup. And so I'm just, these kind of things, we'll have those questions. Well, how do we know? This is what we're saying. How do we know it's not Ishmael? How do we know it's not one of the other descendants?
That's what we're doing in prophecy.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I totally understand, but that's when because this is what we're doing. We're using these tools to match it up with Bible. So if certain Shemites ended up in the transatlantic slave trade or even the Saharan slave trade, something that you guys do all the time, that we love y'all work when y'all do this. You understand? We respect it, and we do listen. So what we do is we try to jive them together. So now we go to scripture and we start trying to pull out, okay, well, it makes sense if these people with this Shemitic bloodline end up in this slave trade, then it's like putting the puzzle together. Is it definitive? No.
Well,
but it's evidence.
well, also,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, also another thing to look into is when it comes to like determining Ishmael from Israel and all the other Shemitic people is culture. Of course, we know that the Israelites practice a very specific culture, unlike the Ishmaelites. Same thing with other Shemitic groups throughout the Middle East. And, that's why I say looking at culture and heritage is very important, such as, I recommend people like Divine Prospect, who looks at various West African groups that have, Hebrewisms within them. So that's another way to determine, the difference between an Ishmaelite and the Israelites, looking at the culture, the language, customs, things of that nature. But
And yeah, I'd like to say about the haplogroup versus autosomal. It's not versus autosomal. It's a combination of both. And why is because autosomal, when you go through the generations, you will only get as much DNA up to 9 generations back. And so we're much farther from Jacob than 9 generations. And so in order to look for any type of heritage or DNA coming down from Shemitic people living in the Middle East, because the haplogroup, your X or your Y, would be unbroken, passing down from your mother to you or your father to you. Unbroken means that mutation that you get from your father or your mother is going to go to you, and that mutation won't change that they gave you. So that's what I mean by unbroken.
Okay, how do you know it's 9 generations limit? Because they used they used YSTR profile on Ramses III, right? They used that, and he's beyond 9 generations. Anybody? Yeah. So Ramses III is beyond 9 generations. They use YSTR profiling on him. The other issue is that let's say the Levant is legit, and this is where Israelites saw. This is where the Netuphians were found. This was also the land of the Canaanites. And so that's another question at this point. How do we know that the Netuphians were not Canaanites? And then there's multiple issues with what happened to our people, right? We were chased all around the world by our enemies. We were fleeing. We were also dominated by them. So the haplogroup we have today, even though it's dominant and it's E, why would that not reflect the captors' DNA who enslaved us, who raped our women? Because the Muslims, they used our women as sex slaves, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of questions. There's some things we're thinking can, it doesn't change. But we have a people who were dominated worldwide. We have a people that historically, just like what Ben Israel showed and we showed, were in Europe, right? They were in Spain and Portugal. But you don't even see that haplogroup over there. And then according to the what's that? The little tool that lets you look at the migration of the haplogroup. We shared it in a video a couple of years ago.
SMP tracker.
Yeah, that's it. The SMP tracker. So if you run E1B1A, you using the SMP tracker. Now, whether it's legit or not, I'm just saying it shows that E never left Africa. So I mean, so there's a lot of questions there, and I don't know if you guys have answers, but I'll wait here.
Yes,
Ava,
I
can
can.
you share your sources on
yeah,
the samples that are in the Middle East, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer each one of the statements. So first, beginning with Ramses the Third. So of course, I think we're all familiar with Ramses the Third. He had, of course, E1B1A as his Y-DNA haplogroup, and so of course that's interesting because also autosomally, Ramses the Third was he had SSA or Sub-Saharan African DNA in him. So Ramses the Third was basically, he was kind of like one of our people. Now, of course, he wasn't like, some people try to say, oh, he was a native-born Egyptian, but we know back then there was all types of people going in and out of Egypt, from Asiatics to even Europeans. But and we know, and Ramses III, ancestry doesn't go back to any of the known pharaohs. His father Sennacherib actually seized the throne during political strife. But anyways, Ramses III was a E1B1A individual, so his STR, being E1B1A, that kind of fits with what we're saying with our people being in that general region of northeastern Africa and the Levant, because we know Egypt and Israel is connected to each other. Technically, some people even say Israel is Northeast Africa, but not going to get into that. So I'm cool with the whole STR thing because Ramses III had it, and he had haplogroup E. But even going separate to the next statement, Natufians and Canaanites, how do we know that the Natufians aren't the Canaanites? So when it comes to the Canaanites, various well, first what we have to understand is Canaan and Canaanite is it's a very loose term because it basically applies to anyone living in the region of Canaan. There's various biblical scholars that say this over and over again. And even in today, when it comes to archaeology, some people even classify the Israelites as Canaanites, as well as Midianites and Edomites and Moabites. They're all quote unquote called, Canaanites. But we know that they're not Canaanites in the biblical sense. So Canaan is a very tricky term. Now, going back to how do we know Natufians aren't Canaanites? Well, according to a lot of anthropologists, they actually say that the Natufians would have been the ancestors of Semites. And of course, the Natufians have various old markers of E. And I agree with Natufians being the first people to speak a Proto-Afro-Asiatic language based on the pottery and the old scripts that we find and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to the Canaanites, specifically again with those guys, the people that the Israelites fought, we actually know several things about them. One, the Canaanites of the ancient Levant during the time of Israel weren't speaking a Semitic language. They were speaking a Hurrian language. And the Hurrians are a people from the Zagros Mountains, and they came into the Levant around the time of the Middle Bronze Age. And these Hurrians, being basically a Caucasian Iranian type of people, invaded the Levant. And we find their names in the Amarna tablets, the famous Amarna tablets, and various other names on old ancient documents of the Middle Bronze Age. And furthermore, we found out, and this is a big shocker, but we found out that these Canaanite remains, these non-Semitic people, had J markers. And I think that's very powerful because it shows that the J marker that people are trying to push as being quote unquote Jewish, it's actually Canaanite. It's actually the very people that the Israelites were fighting because we find all these J markers in Canaanite remains along with non-Semitic names. So I think that's pretty powerful, and I can go into that at another time. And this is why I push for E and R people being Israel, and even if you don't have haplogroup E, I can still prove your Israelite ancestry through another method. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but there are various methods that I use to proving it. But now going to Ishmael and Israel, so you said that Israel has haplogroup E, then Ishmael will also have haplogroup E, and you're correct. But same thing with autosomal DNA. If we're going to go with the autosomal DNA route or the STR marker route, then you will also still have to apply that, Ishmael and Israel will have the same STR DNA or the same autosomal DNA if they're coming from like the same man, Abraham or Isaac. And last thing I'll say, haplogroup E, S&P Tracker is a good website, but you also have to read a lot of papers. Haplogroup E, there's various scientists that say haplogroup E, or technically DE or Yaaap, evolved or migrated, or well, actually, I say all that evolved, migrated, or was birthed outside of Africa, specifically with a population known as the basal Eurasians. And of course, I go with the model that haplogroup DE was outside of Africa and migrated into Africa. There's a lot of evidence that support that, rather than E popping up in Africa, which wouldn't quite make a lot of sense because we do see D all the way in East Asia with the Japanese and islanders of southwestern Asia and stuff like that. But hopefully that answered all those questions.
Okay.
Samples.
Wait, what about the
samples? The samples that the Natufians aren't not in that time period, but the Natufians aren't the only old E markers in the Middle East, Near East region. They're scattered all over there in that region.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if
correct.
you have that slide or that paper that they can see for themselves, but yeah, they're all over there.
Yeah, we found it in Mesopotamia, ancient Semitic civilizations like Ebola. That's a very famous one. And Anatolia. Wait, what's that?
Yeah, the Samaritan Jews.
Oh yeah. We find it among various modern day Semitic populations as well, like the Samaritan Jews in Israel, the Levites, the one that claimed Kohan. They actually have 100% of E markers, and this kind of I can see why the Jews with the J markers don't really like that. But you find a lot of E markers among Arab populations as well, Iraqi, Kurdish, like a lot of modern Middle Easterners have it. A lot of people like to push the J marker, but that E marker is really starting to show a different light. That there was a population of people, specifically descendants of Japheth, that came into the Middle East and sort of like, pushed people to the deserts. And it's kind of what the scriptures allude to if you were to go with the idea that Japheth shall enlargeth and dwell in the tents of Shem. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways,
there's a book that I think you guys would love about the way the geneticists view the different types of tests, the Y-DNA test for haplogroups and the autosomal test. And if you want, I can put that link in a private chat for you all, because it is a very great book written by geneticists, and they explain what autosomal DNA can be used for, what haplogroups can be used for, what's their limitations, and stuff like that.
Okay, well, as the Hebrew of Israel had indicated, that Ramses III did have autosomal testing, and that it reaffirmed haplogroup. But this is one of the points Jacob and I have, is that what we're seeing is Israelites with different haplogroups, and their autosomals are a lot more closer than their haplogroup. And if we're going to rely on haplogroup as a de facto, as a primary standard, then we should be able to reaffirm haplogroup and autosomal, right? Not that in some cases the haplogroup can't change for various reasons, but we got a lot of issues. Say, for example, Babylonian captivity. Well, 70 years in captivity in Babylon, and Israel intermarried with the Babylonians. They had mixed kids. There's many reasons why their haplogroup would have changed. The Syrian captivity, same thing. There's going to be mixture. And so
yes,
we approach the idea here that haplogroup is not changing, but captivity is the very thing that can impact that.
Yeah, well, this is where we start to. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me let you finish before I make my pick.
Okay. So
Yeah, no,
wait, what?
I just wanted to say one more thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And concerning historical language, I mean, the Paleo Hebrew is a Canaanite-based language, right? So so if we're looking at this history, the language of the Hebrews is based off Canaanite language. So there's a lot of things that can really make this complex, right? It's just not. I mean, we're assuming these haplogroups appear, but we got, like I said, captivity itself is impacting the Israelites haplogroup over centuries, including the.
Again, Canaanite
Well-
is a loose term.
Well,
Canaanite. It's a loose term. So the people could have been speaking in the area. We're just talking about people that were in, like Evie alluded to earlier. These people were in Canaan and amongst other people. So they group everybody, even the ancient Israelites, as Canaanites. So yes, the language would be there, and people would have been speaking that language.
But
in
isn't that
the area of languages.
the same issue with the Natufians, right? It's the same issue, right?
well, except for the Natufians would have been speaking a Proto-Semitic language, and the type of language that the Israelites spoke were the Paleo Hebrew would have been a descendant of the Proto-Semitic tongue. But just to go into a few things that you said, so when it comes to like going with the example that you used, Israelites being in Babylon, and yeah, I guess I'll go with that one first. So Israelites being in Babylon, when it comes to, like, let's say an Israelite man mixes with a Babylonian woman, the haplogroup is still going to be passed down to the son of that mixed Israelite Babylonian, Israelite Babylonian kid, because a haplogroup, as we know, is a sex determining chromosome, and it's passed down from father to son, father to son. So that kid is still going to be an Israelite because he's coming from his father, even though he's mixed. Now, from an autosomal standpoint, he's going to be half Israelite and half, let's just say, Iraqi, because Babylon's in Iraq. So he's going to be half Israelite and half Iraqi. So he's going to be a split between the two, basically a mulatto, to put in simple terms. Now, let's say that mixed. So let's say that mixed Iraqi Israelite boy gets with another Iraqi person, then the kid is going to be 75% Iraqi and only 25% Israelite, and that's what you call a quadroon. They're mixed by 3 generations already. You're almost not an Israelite from an autosomal perspective. And then let's say that 3rd generation mixed Israelite gets with another Iraqi. Pretty much the Israelite ancestry from an autosomal level is going to be diluted, but he's still going to carry the Y DNA of his Israelite father. And that's why we kind of like, Y DNA, because we know that it's passed down from father to son, father to son. He's still going to carry that gene from his dad, but the autosomal DNA is going to be gone.
Right, but do you still consider him an Israelite just because he has a haplogroup, although he's become, let's say, like the example we gave with the guy that was 97% European, he's 97% Babylonian with the Israelite haplogroup. Do you still consider him an Israelite?
I would consider anyone that follows the faith to be an Israelite, even if they're not an Israelite by birth. Like, I think us as, believers in Yeshua, and even when it comes to ancient Israelites before Yeshua, proselytes, when they joined the faith, they were, quote unquote, an Israelite. So I believe that person.
I just mean from a genetic perspective, that's all.
Oh, from a genetic perspective, with the person, I would say like this: that person has Israelite ancestry. I wouldn't say that they're a full-bred Israelite. I would say that they have Israelite ancestry. No different than, let's say, someone has 2% Native American. I'll say, well, I have some Native American ancestry. So they'll have some Israelite ancestry.
Right. So in reality, even though he's carrying the haplogroup of Jacob, he may no longer really fully genetically be, an Israelite. Right? I'm just saying genetically, right?
You said genetically?
I would still be. I say that would patrilineally still be Israel, he may have taken on Iraqi culture, right? But we know that biblically that it goes from father to son to son to son. This is the unbroken pick. So yes, still be his patrilineal line, still direct point him to an Israelite paternal line, and so I would consider him Israel.
Even though he's 97%. Let's say the example we would give
I don't
earlier.
because we do, if we're dealing with just DNA and we're dealing with DNA, I'm not, we don't phenotype. So I'm not gonna, because he looks European, because he looks white, or he might look Asian, or whatever he may be mixed with. I don't phenotype. He would still be in my eyes a patrilineal line, unbroken chain of Israel. So and I don't expect anybody to agree with me, but I would say that he is still of the line of Israel.
Okay, but the brother Hebrew of Yakoba, the brother Hebrew of Israel, he was giving an example that the brother is 97%. He's not. Let's say European is a good one. He's 97% European with a Jacob haplogroup, right? Who's related to Jacob, right? Because he's 97% autosomally. He's 97% something else. He has been bred out.
Right, but we wouldn't look to use Y in the court of law for that. We're talking about an unbroken chain. We're going back millennia trying to track a people. We're not looking for child support within the past 2 or 3 generations. We're talking historical, because autosomal stops after 6 to 8 generations. It starts to degrade. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't go back further than that.
But we all agreed that autosomal was used on Ramses.
But Ramses would have his autosomal because you found his DNA. You're in his. You pulled his DNA. So it would still
of everything we're talking about. Yeah. Now you're on it. This is why we were pushing.
Find it, but you would have to. But we are saying an unbroken chain from father to son down the line, the way the Bible tells us. This is
okay.
Is
so if we found that guy with 97% European
because we have a living example that runs with the Yaaap gang. His name is Teotw. He's a Karaite.
So I will say, let's hold on one second. Everybody, let's make sure we allow everybody to get their thoughts out. So,
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop right there. So
I haven't spoken much.
I would like to say something after the brother. I can't see the screen, so I don't know who's talking. But
Okay, this is cool, but I just want to share this and get y'all opinion on it, right? Because y'all say it's an unbroken line, right? Because of the haplogroups. Okay, this from 23andMe. It says, for relatives not on your direct maternal or paternal line, you are not likely to share a haplogroup. The 23andMe DNA relatives feature does not use your haplogroup to find matches, and not all people who share a haplogroup are listed as genetic relatives. Most of your genetic relatives will actually fall outside of your haplogroup because your haplogroup only tells you about direct paternal line or maternal line ancestors. Typically, the DNA mutations that define a haplogroup occurred thousands of years ago, so many pairs of people who share a haplogroup are not closely related. For closer relatives, both males and females inherit mitochondrial DNA from their biological mothers. A mother and her sons and daughters therefore share mitochondrial DNA or maternal haplogroup. Any set of individuals who share a mother, that is siblings or maternal half-siblings, have the same maternal haplogroup. In addition, all sons inherit their Y chromosomes from their biological fathers. A father and his son therefore share a Y chromosome or paternal haplogroup. Any set of males who share a common male line ancestor, this is brothers, paternal, half-brothers, male paternal, cousins, have the same paternal haplogroup. There are cases, however, where an individual's haplogroup assignment might not exactly match those reported to the individual's parent or sibling. Apparent mismatches arise when more data are available for one member of the family than for another, as in the following examples. Okay, not determined for a haplogroup defining SNP. A son or daughter might be assigned a haplogroup H2, while his or her mother is assigned H. The two assignments are consistent with one another, but the son or daughter's assignment is at a higher resolution, probably because of a SNP did not yield data for the mother. In fact, following the rules of genetics, the mother would learn from the assignment of her son or daughter that she has the H2 haplogroup, the same example as applied to a paternal haplogroup. So this is one of the issues we were talking about when we were talking about the data. When we talked to the guy at ISOGG, that sometimes the data is bad. And he mentioned that, how YFOL has a lot of bad data in it because it can't make direct matches. And so when they can't find a match, they put an asterisk. And see, most people don't know when you put an asterisk, that's a wild card. Maybe some of y'all familiar with programming, right? Writing queries. When you put an asterisk, that's a wild card. So it can match to anything, right? And so that was the point the guy in the email that we shared was saying, and we were trying to tell Orthodox that sometimes the data is bad, and he was saying it happens all the time. So, and based upon this particular thing right here, sometimes your haplogroup ain't gonna match, even though you related. And so there's those.
I could give you a summary of this and my understanding when you.
Segregated. If you have problems, if it's degraded, you're gonna get an asterisk. You're gonna get that. It's gonna happen. It's science.
No, we're not talking about degradation. It's just bad data, period. Right? Because they just can't find a match. Right? It don't have to be degraded. It's just bad data.
Well, yeah, the actual reading doesn't come back with a definitive result. So because they can't read it, that particular location, they put an asterisk.
So that's what when we look at it, we look at it from the viewpoint of programmers, because we're like, okay, if we wanted this program to work, how would this work? How do they work together? What does this mean? And we ask all these questions, which is why we have issues with haplogroups, because it's not definitive. It's not like, okay, I'm haplogroup E, and everybody who's related to me gonna be haplogroup E, as we saw with 23andMe. And also, if y'all, once y'all talk, I want to show y'all a piece of a video. Maybe some of y'all saw it, but I want to get your opinion on the video as well. But I released my time.
All right.
Okay, so who's new in the room? Who's R.W. Smith? It's a new person.
Oh, that's
our
Rue.
brother, Rue, who's a black Ashkenazi Jew.
Okay.
Yes. So I hear something. What's that? What I hear?
If I can ask Jacob to pull that screen back up?
Yeah, I was about to address that.
I could give you my view on what that is.
Oh yeah, you can go first, Shari, and then I'll go next.
So for relatives not on your direct maternal or paternal line, you are not likely to share a haplogroup. And I'm gonna stop there for a second. And that's correct. And that's pertaining to what both Yacoba and Minister Teotw are referring to, is that for people that are not directly descended from either your grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, that direct line, they may come from a female from maybe your fourth or third cousin who admixed with someone else's maternal line, and they have now haplogroup H, right? That's how that could happen because of the different admixture, and you're going into different families and et cetera, et cetera. Now, as it pertains to the data scenario, that also comes down to the resolution that they do for the testing of the SNP, the SNP, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Avery, it's a 6 STR and a 12 STR. And so there are different levels of testing, and that just refers to the many times that mutation repeats in your genome. And so for her, this scenario, they didn't have probably a higher resolution to where they could test to see how many times that mutation occurred, repeated within her maternal line upon her X chromosome. So for her, they weren't able to give her an accurate haplogroup because they weren't able to ascertain how many times did that mutation repeat on your X chromosome, if that makes sense.
So this is Cherie. The rest of that sentence said, and not all people who actually share a haplogroup are listed as genetic relatives. So that's also
correct.
right. So
Autosomal.
They said haplogroup, right?
I know, but I'm saying we would have to look at the autosomal to see why.
Okay, so I mean, based on that, we can't definitively say people who are not in the same haplogroup are not related. Even, and then my question would be, from your perspective, why would that be?
Yeah.
My perspective is admixture. Just like we were talking about earlier with the captivity, Babylonian captivity. Okay, you're gonna have admixture and people from different haplogroups coming in, but now because your first cousin has a Babylonian uncle who doesn't have a certain haplogroup, has a completely different haplogroup, but they share the same, let's say, your mother, right? You guys are gonna have a relationship because they are related, but you're not. His haplogroup comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you can be related because of admixture, but still have a paternal line that goes back further.
But so that validates that haplogroups are not a determinant factor of who's Israel, right? You cannot just say, okay, just because he's Israel, because it may not match. So that's one of the points we're making about haplogroups, that there's flaws, there's complexities, there's nuances. And when they try to say E1B1A, E1B1B is Israel and stuff like that, but they're incorrect, and that was
it's not that simple. That's the
it's not that simple. Exactly.
But
that's
let me.
Why when Evie was speaking earlier, he said that we try and look at autosomal, haplogroup, culture, language, and history because that's how you can paint the whole picture. You can't. I know for me, I don't like getting one piece of information. Let's say the haplogroup is one piece of information. Say, oh, that's it. You're Israel. Because then when you go look at the autosomal, you go look into the history of the people, their cultures and things like that, it don't fit. It's not the puzzle. That's not the right piece to that puzzle.
I agree with you. And here's the thing. I mean, like, even the Moshobians.
When y'all are done, I want to say something.
Okay. I'm going to be real quick. Okay, even with the Mashubians, people don't want to talk about them and their relations to the Natufians. And when you finish your statement, if y'all don't mind, if nobody has any other questions, I want to show you a video, and I want to get y'all input on it. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I hear a lot of.
Can somebody mute? There's some background noise.
Yeah.
Can somebody mute?
Actually, I'm sorry. Hold on. Sorry.
So. Okay. All right. So just to give you a visualization, I'm going to share my screen of how a family can have different haplogroups. Sharing my. Oops. Is that it? Yeah. Sharing my screen. Can y'all see it? So here is an example of how people can have different haplogroups. I'm going to try to zoom in and see if y'all can see what I see. Can y'all see everything?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah. There's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels. Yeah.
Oops, I did not mean to do that. All right. So, that's how you do it. All right. So when it comes to a haplogroup, let's say a white man has haplogroup R, and then he gets with a black woman with haplogroup L. So of course their kid is going to be a mixed black man or a mixed white man, but the kid's going to be mixed, and they're going to have haplogroup R from their father and mitochondrial L from their mother. And then let's say this mixed black man gets with a black woman, and he's still going to carry haplogroup R from his father and haplogroup R from his grandfather. Now let's say that this mixed black woman gets with a black man with haplogroup E. Now, let's say by the 4th generation, this mixed black man gets with a full black woman. Their kid is going to be about 75% black. He's still going to carry haplogroup R, though, from his father, his grandfather, and great-grandfather. Whereas this girl, who got with a black man with haplogroup E, and then she's going to have 2 children who's 75% black, just like this generation, or this side of the family. And they're going to carry, haplogroup E from this, other man's lineage. And of course, they're still going to carry the L marker from their mother. Now let's go all the way down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th generation. This is how you can have a family with different haplogroups. One side of the family can have, let's say some E markers because of this other lineage that was introduced. And then this family has R markers going back to the father's lineage. So this is how you can have some R, L, and E and stuff like that within a family.
So let me ask you a question, because with me, this is the assumption of the white scientists, not all of them, that haplogroup R starts with Caucasian. Whereas from what we've seen, all, according to some scientists, the out of Africa theory, that all of the haplogroups come out of Africa. And we can find almost all of those haplogroups out of Africa. And so a lot of them want to say, well, the white man went in there and divvied in with some of our people and gave them R, and that's why some of our people got R in Africa. And that don't even make sense since we're the predominant gene, right? And so to me, this scenario doesn't really work unless you assume that the white man is the originator of haplogroup R and not an African.
Right? Do you guys believe in the out of Africa theory? Because it's the predominant one today.
When it comes to my belief of the age of the earth and the origin of man, I can go with both a young earth model, such as, what's his name? Kent Hovind, but I can also go with an old earth model, such as Heiser, Michael Heiser. So I can go with both.
I go with wherever the most evidence supports the theory. So if it's the out of Africa that has the most evidence to support it, I'm going to support it. As of now, that's where I'm at because that's what I'm studying. But I'm also looking into the out of Asia theory, which is like Arabian Peninsula theory, to see what that pans out at. But to comment on the R being the white man, that's anyone who would say that, not saying that you would say that, but anyone outside of our little group here that would say that, they would be incorrect because the evolution of white skin is a relatively new thing. So white skin didn't come into existence until about 8,000, 9,000 years ago.
Thank you.
So everybody would have been melanated.
So do you guys see? You see the messages that come out. Like we haven't talked to you guys like this, which I think is how it should have started. But some people are teaching various versions of this thing and not having answers like you, right? Like definitively all E1B1A is real, but we already proved that can change. But even you have the person that's coming, after the fourth generation, according to the scripture, you Israel again. So you have those who have been mixed. You have you also have the proselytes who integrated, and then after 4 generations, they became fully Israel. There's all kind of things that affect the nation of Israel. So those haplogroups could have been there at the very time of King David, right? So there's all these scenarios that impact how someone could have gotten the haplogroup and how it got merged into the population, right? And so, the human population is complex. And, at least you guys are, have your answers, more thorough. But, a lot of the people that's teaching, the haplogroup are not presenting what you guys are saying. So when we say, autosomal is better, it's because when we know and I'm not saying in your scenario because you guys at least are looking deeper, but autosomal, we know definitively you can say this person is genetically tied to you at this, up to this time, up to this day. So, we can probably, if we have enough samples of, say, Ramsey's DNA, to fully run, a good, I don't know if that YSTR test they did was good enough, but if it is, we should be able to find his descendants today.
And here's the thing I want to add right quick. When I was looking at this, I was reading from some of the white scientists, and they say themselves that the ones who gathered data and the samples and all these things were biased, right? Because they wanted a white world, white folks, created Egypt and built the pyramids, and all the great nations and kingdoms were white. And so they skew some of the samples and some of the haplogroups based upon racism, right? And so, some of these books, you got to be careful because you don't know what side of the coin they were on. Now, I like... I like Hate, because he's a Jew, right? A white Jewish guy, Ashkenaz, and he seems to be fair as far as I've seen. But some of these guys are biased, and you can tell. And so even when you look at some of the samples, like for instance, when they were sampling some of the Bantus in South Africa, and maybe they've done better now, but I've seen where they sampled just 4 people, right? And then there's whole other tribes in Africa they never even sampled. Like when people try to talk about us about G, they say, well, you're a white boy, you're Caucasian. Look, I don't have a problem with that if it was true. But then there's black Jews in Morocco who have G, right? And so it don't make sense when you start putting all the data together. And that's our issue, is that what they say don't match. Some of it don't make sense, right? And so that's all I had to say about it.
I say that's a testament to prophecy, that you have a mixed multitude, and it goes back beyond some people's basic comprehensive understanding. Not yours, but people who say that,
And that's why we say we only
go
have this prophecy, right? That's why we moved away and said, okay, we looked at it. There's quite a few questions that keep arising. It's more complex than we realize. Let's trust it. Let's trust the scriptures, and let's trust the word of the Most High, that these curses will be a sign upon His people forever. So we know, because we know the Most High never lies. We good. We might as well be good because He told us how to identify each other, But as a scientific exercise, I'm not saying this is not valid, and I think you guys are doing a good job understanding this. But I think maybe you guys have a better understanding of what we were saying and the issues. I hope, because it's very complex.
Yeah, I think I got an idea for the best method to go ahead. How about this? How about we you allow us to stick to genetics and things of that nature, because y'all's expertise is in prophecy and things. I do like your prophecy, and when it comes to proving the black Israelites in places like around the Mediterranean, I feel like y'all, if it's cool with y'all can stick with more of that stuff, because you said you haven't gotten into DNA in the past 2 years and you was dragged in by Abu, and I feel like maybe if y'all were to stick to the prophecy and the black Jews, and if we
haven't touched it until Abu showed up.
Right, that's what I mean. And so we can stick to
that.
And we can over here at Yaaap, we can stick to genetics, because I don't know if you're familiar with the debate that I did against G-Con and Laron. Using DNA, we kind of tore them up, so much so that they deleted videos. Berean TV deleted videos, and everybody was like, this DNA stuff, we gotta get studied up, because these Israelites are coming with new information. So I feel like we can give UA a run for their money if we stick with the DNA. Even Jewish people are surprisingly seeing, like, oh, these black people might actually be able to prove something with this DNA stuff.
And look, we are totally cool with that. Y'all can be the DNA experts, but we don't want to touch it. I mean, we have our opinion, but it was all Abu bringing us back. I told Abu for 2 years. I told him 2 years. I say it's the curses. That's all we care about. We don't care about DNA. And he harassed me for 2 years. And then he had to go on Abu and misrepresent us. We tell you in.
So
yeah, we'll handle Abu. We'll get Abu.
So
we don't like him either.
I got one point to make because we're getting into the whole thing, and Cherie brought up a great point, segueing into how we're going to engage with each other, because y'all got to understand the history behind Abu. And I know y'all understand it, but I think
I don't.
Now the history.
I do. I've been around for a while.
Sean, you know how the history led. It started with the pews, with Kelly, where he was trying to prove his premise that there was no writing on the pews that resembled cursive Hebrew. And it's been consistent where Abu has been trying to get on other people's platform, even be my platform or Berean's platform, to state his premise. His premise was not very valid because he kept changing his story. 1 minute it's Arabic, the next minute it's an unknown script. Next minute he said it's scribble almost. So that's how Abu came into the picture. But he's also been trying to segue in when it comes to the DNA part. So that's why we're saying with Abu you have to be very careful, because Abu is smart. Abu is very smart in how he does things, and my biggest concern was, and then I'll let y'all talk because I am just supposed to be moderator. But my biggest concern is Abu has been trying to find a way to get in. At first, he was trying to get in with me to get on my channel. Then he was trying to get in through other people. My biggest concern is the younger community. And when I say younger, I think everybody, pretty much all of y'all, except for Sean, because I think me and Sean are around the same age. But everybody on the panel is about in their 20s. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct.
But I'm the oldest amongst the 20-year-olds. I'm just saying.
Sheree, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 24.
Okay, yeah, I think you told me that. The biggest concern is, and Sean, me and you are about the same age, right?
I think I'm older than you, sis.
Oh, but my biggest concern is Abu is trying to slip in through you all.
And through Orthodox, let's not forget that, right?
And Orthodox, to create tension, because if we create tension and we're divided, that leaves us wide open for people like Faithful to God. Because Faithful to God is still somewhere looming. I don't know if Abu and Faithful has fallen out.
Well, we're waiting
it's
for
funny.
We're waiting for Faithful. He's supposed to be doing a video on DNA, so we're waiting for him to put it out so we could tear his behind up too.
It's funny y'all mentioned.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna make it quick, but it's funny y'all mentioned Faithful to God because I think were you there, Sister E, where Faithful to God actually apologized to me? He was on that apology tour because he got something wrong that I said, and now we even made a truce. Like we won't cross paths with each other, me and Faithful. So
don't trust his truce. He doesn't.
Yeah. Everybody told me that. Everyone said that.
I'm gonna tell you something.
But I was tearing him up.
The only reason we're telling y'all this because how long have y'all been watching everything? How long have y'all been doing it? I know Sean has been here for a while, but the rest of y'all been here with about 2 years now, 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So Faithful to God has no regard for a truce. He only uses a truce as a means to give him some time so he can come back in.
Exactly.
So this is why we say we got to be careful with Abu because even though Abu doesn't say that he deals with Faithful is sitting and watching, and Abu is possibly going to pull Faithful back in. That's why I didn't want to see us argue because if they saw all of us arguing and we all divided, that would have left us wide open right now.
And look,
I believe hold on real quick.
That's interesting. Okay.
I was just waiting to say something real quick. But your call, but let me just say this real quick when it comes to Abu. So look, I think I made this clear on the night I was on Orthodox More channel. I don't trust Abu. I don't trust. But I stand on the side of truth. So if I hear you say something truthful, I'm gonna give you a flower. Truthful, I'm gonna give you your flowers on it. But that doesn't mean I trust you. It's not. That doesn't mean you're my friend. That doesn't mean now we can build because I trust you. You understand? So this is where me and Abu is, and I made it clear to him. I've reached out to him and I made it clear, and he respects it. Like I don't trust you. I still don't trust you. Don't think that because you said something that along the lines of how I study and believe, working with DNA, that that me and you are some kind of friends because that's not what it is.
Well, I
don't trust him.
Yeah, so I like to say, I like to see, what comes out of this, and at least out of y'all teachings, let's say, is to deal with some of the discussions we dealt with. Like say, for example, what happens to a person that's 97% European and still has Jason, E1B1 their marker. I mean, we have to, start discussing that and looking at those complexities that we talked about and how, I do like what Hebrew of Israel was breaking down. I thought that was good.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
But we do have a live specimen that rolls with the Yaaap gang. His name is Yaakov, and he is a Karaite Jew, and he carries the E marker. And if you see him, he look like he Irish, and he has like 30 or 38% on the Teotw. So we're gonna do an interview with him as of tomorrow. So
let me ask you. I have a book. I think it was 1920s from a Jewish guy. And he said that the Karaite Jews are converts. And this is a Jew himself, but he's an Ashkenazi Jew, I believe, and he was saying that the Karaite Jews are converts. I could get the book to you guys. But under that scenario, how do you deal with that? I guess we have the same situation that not all Karaites are converts, but most Karaites are converts, right?
Con.
And so here's my thing. I just got a quick statement.
Well,
I put two links
because when you're dealing with Europe,
this is real quick. This is short, real short. Only not even a minute. Okay, I got two links in the private chat. If y'all could copy those two links and put it in your browsers and look at those videos and give me your input on it. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
With Europe and North Africa, because of the different invasions of different people groups over the millennial, you will find, like with different groups, like the Ashkenazi and the Karaites or the Mizrahi, the Yemenite Jews, you will find that they have a lot of proselytes among them, but there's in all these groups, the connecting genetic link is the E haplogroup. That's the one thing we all have in common. Every Jewish group around the world.
So even because what is that? And this is only a question because y'all know I'm horrible in DNA, but I do have that question. So RW, I don't know what your whole name is. I'm just gonna say RW.
It's Ruth Smith. I just made it hard for people to read.
Okay, Ruth, I gotta remember that. Ruth, I'm so sorry. So Ruth, you do have that E haplotype, right?
Yes. All the family have E1B, E1B, or E1B1A.
I've never heard of a black Ashkenazi. So what does that mean? I'm kind of confused on that.
Well, I was able to trace my heritage to Ashkenazi Jews. My last name is Smith, and the Smith last name is a very popular last name among Ashkenazi Jews. They went through the bottleneck of the European diaspora, and because of that bottleneck, there are genetic issues that some of us experience, and I just happen to be in that group. But the only Ashkenazim doesn't. I know a lot of people like to conflate that just because someone calls themselves an Ashkenazim Jew, that means that they're a son of Ashkenaz. That's not true. It means that you were in diaspora in the area of Ashkenaz. It's the same reason why we call the Limba Jews, the Igbo Jews, the Mizrahi Jews, their name. Everything's it's a matter of where they were.
So genetically, you don't tie back to what we call Ashkenazi Jews, right? Because aren't they're J?
Right? No, that's not true. They are 20% E, upwards to 30% E.
E1B1B, right?
What?
E1B1B, I think some of them.
No, it's both E1B1A and E1B1B.
I've never heard of that, but okay, go ahead.
No, it's definitely both. About 17% have E1B1B, and about 10 to 20%, depending on what group you're dealing with, have E1B1A.
Yeah,
so
Lithuanian Jews.
What do you all think about Aaron Elhake, who said that the Ashkenaz are not Israelites?
Yeah, so that goes back to
the vast majority aren't.
I'll let Ruth handle that.
That's
Actually,
what I was about to get at is that you have those who actually were. If you read the book, the Kuzari, it actually is a book or a narrative that tells the story of how the royalty of the Khazarian kingdom were converted to Judaism. And we still have their ancestors here today, and when we've tested them, they have haplogroup Q. They don't even have J. J is a marker that came in most likely during the kingdom of King David.
Early Bronze Age. And
J,
Iron Age.
Yeah, early Bronze Age. J was already mixing with
Armenian invasion, right?
Yep.
So have you all heard of Dr. Jensen? Dr. Jensen states that that the Ashkenaz, that they are J. And he also comes from the viewpoint, I'm not, he may be racist, but he also says that he is Ham. And that's in one of those videos I gave you. Now, I don't agree with that. I'm just saying, you got different scientists, and they come with different results from you all, right? And so that's why Minister Teotw and I, talk about the complexities of this whole haplogroup and DNA in general.
Well, that's why we need specialists in the field who are willing to parse through the information and bring out the truth and separate it from the bias.
The biasness. Yes.
There's a bias in Egypt right now to keep the Bible ahistorical because, according to the scriptures, they would have to give up part of their land. So they don't want to admit that the Bible is true just because of that. So everybody has a political, they have political money in the game, and that they have reasons why they're trying to spin narratives. But we have to depend on our own oral traditions, on our own writings, our own oral history that we pass down, our own ability to understand these different sciences, so that we can bring this truth to our own community, rather than allowing racists and people who are ideologically opposed to us to dictate the narrative.
So how do you guys deal with the biases of these scientists? Because just like we got in various, like in the history sector, right, where they make Egypt white, things like that, we know they skew things in their favor. So when we're looking at their data, and as Minister Yaaap say, you know, some of these samples they take are less than 4, 5, 10 people. How do you factor that in? Because that's one of the other issues we have is the sample size. Because we got 2 billion people in Africa, but what we're told, those 2 billion people, you know, a large majority of them are but we don't even have the sample size to prove it. So how do you guys deal with things?
We don't make a decision until we see enough sample sizes. Like if we see a small sample size, we'll note it. We'll keep the paper. We'll keep the article, and we'll wait and see, you know, what else comes out. So we don't make definitive thoughts off of that. You know,
yeah, but there's whole tribes they haven't even tested yet, not even once, that live in Africa, and that's another problem I have. I'm like, dude, y'all ignoring Africa like y'all always do, just so you could go sample the whole world and say everybody is related to the white man.
Well, yeah, it looks like they're spinning it because, you know, they pick who they want to sample. Instead of sampling every tribe, there's certain tribes, and some of them have Israelite heritage, but they haven't been tested. And you know, so we start having questions, you know.
Yeah, well, we think that they may have already tested them, but you just don't know about it.
Well, that's true. Maybe there's a reason why, right?
Exactly. So this is how we think. This is how we operate, you know, because we know that there's samples. They have samples right now in Israel that they sampled some. They have a large sample size.
Iron Age
samples, that they find Iron Age people that they find. They refuse to release it. They're not releasing it. Israel, the state of Israel is not releasing it.
Yeah, there's a paper.
The Limba is going through that too as well, because the Limba are trying to get their DNA results and in Israel, and they refuse to give it to them. If y'all
refuse to give it. Yeah, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. So we know all of these things. We take all of these things into consideration. We do. We don't just throw things around and you know, we really do a deep dig on all of these articles and the things that we research.
And that's why it's taken me so long from my L3 and L2 study, because I have so much material, and it's not just DNA related. It's culture, it's language, it's migration, it's climate, because I'm looking at, you know, how the climate changed in certain time periods and how that affected the people.
It would affect people agriculturally. It would affect people agriculturally. You know, how they fed themselves, how they fed their animals, you know, so all of these things count. So we take all these things in consideration. So this is why, you know, like, we know you guys are really good in prophecy. We're trying to dig in another area. So we don't take it as a religion. You know, we don't take it as, we just, like, if we're going to talk about this, then we got to be thorough. It might seem like we're being religiously zealous about it, but we're not. This is not our religion.
Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me?
So I wanted to say one thing.
We hear you, Sister.
That religion thing was not about y'all. We were not including y'all.
Guys, go ahead. Guys, when I said that, I was not even talking about y'all. To be honest, I didn't know y'all existed, to be honest. And so, you know, I wasn't talking about y'all because I didn't know what y'all work was. But, you know, what I was talking about, there's a lot of random guys that go in Berean and they're just throwing out words and haplogroups and just making these generic statements and not doing what you guys are doing right now. And so, you know, we're saying, if you're not going to answer these, you know, look at the questions, right? like I said, the scientific method wasn't being applied, right? The first thing was to, ask questions and ask more questions. And that includes the intention of the people sampling, the area they sampled, and I'm like, that's why I said, it was like all these words were being spoken, haplogroup this, that, in this area, and the Tufi, and this and that, but there was no scientific application to it. Right? And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm just saying the randoms who came on there. I'm talking about Abu. It was just throwing this intellectual, exercise without putting any detail or bringing, as we like to say, bringing any receipts. I'm glad you guys have some receipts. Because we're not, as you know, we're not interested in DNA. But at the same time, I wanted to ask this right quick.
All right, when you're done, I have a quick statement.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it to you after this. The Bantu migration, right? We have that history now. According to traditional history, the Bantu migration started in West Africa near Niger, and then went south and southeast. Now, according to Limba and some of the other groups that call themselves Israelites, they have a migration history of coming from East Africa, going to Morocco. One of the tribes, I can't remember the tribe, I did it in the video, they spent time in North Africa until they were chased out by the Muslims, and then they went to Morocco, and then they ended up in South Africa. And so I'm like, those migration patterns, those routes affect what you're going to see as far as archaeological discoveries and stuff like that, because that particular group, they may be in South Africa today, but they were also in Morocco, they were also in North Africa. That's going to impact things. So I just wanted to put that out there that, the Bantu migration itself is something maybe you guys, one of y'all have that assignment, but I think that'd be interesting teaching.
Yes, facts. I'm glad you mentioned that because at some point I am going to get to the Bantu migration. But yeah, the Bantu migration is definitely one of the best evidence to proving our Israelite ancestry. And like when people say, oh, the Bantu, they came from West Africa, that proves that you're not Israelites. Well, I actually think it's okay if Bantu were to spread from West Africa, because if we're all familiar with King Solomon's voyages, he actually would have sailed around Africa when he got the apes and the peacocks and the ivory and all that stuff. I believe that around the time of the early Bronze Age, when King Solomon had those voyages that took 3 years, around the same time when he actually met Queen of Sheba, who was, in Yemen and also East Africa, I believe that King Solomon would have had colonies in West Africa. And, once King Solomon died and the Civil War happened, all trade basically would have stopped. So, those Israelites in Western Africa would have been, stuck there, and some of them could have migrated further south. And I also agree with the Limba's understanding of them coming from East Africa, because they said they came into Africa around the time of the Assyrio-Babylonian Empire. That lines up with Eldad the Danite's account of various tribes, 10 tribes of Israel, going into Cush and then going from Cush to Havilah, which could be somewhere in southern Africa. And also, of course, we had Carthage, a Phoenician city in North Africa. And, Israelites would have been with, Phoenicians and stuff like that. So Israelites were all throughout Africa. So the Bantu migration is very interesting because no matter where you put it, West Africa, East Africa, North Africa, Israelites were there. That's the cool thing about it. But so the one thing I want to get back to though, when it comes to all this is, all right, so what is our next move? I feel like our next post on Facebook needs to show Abu and everyone that we are united and that we've come to an agreement. We, Yaaap, are going to stick to DNA, whereas whereas Teotw is going to stick with what they were sticking with, for the past 2 years. I feel like that is the best route to go, is to make a Facebook post saying Israel United Strong, Yaaap plus Teotw with a Black Fist Power symbol. I don't know. I'm just making something up off the top of my head.
I think we should go live with this. I think we should allow everybody to come on and speak with that. Because the whole ugly part of everything that's going on is we going live. Everybody.
Well, fellas, we were played against each other, right? Because, You know,
really were. And I
yeah,
tried to avoid that in the beginning, but it may have came off wrong, so I do apologize for that.
yeah, because we were not trying to own the whole science, because we pulled away from it 2 years ago. But Abu came in there, and then Orthodox backed Abu, and then Orthodox created a straw man argument that he tried to make us defend. And I'm like, we were never trying to own this. I totally respect where you guys are coming from. I'm glad we were able to have the conversation, and I hope you understand what we were coming from with autosomal, and maybe, that there are some valid arguments there. Not that we were saying it's the only way to go, but we have some issues when we're looking at the data, because, from like my brother said, from a computer programming standpoint, for us to solve our problem, a question produces another question until we find an answer, and produce another question until we can get a synthesis of a common ground. So, that's what led us to say, there's some issues. But I mean, I'm glad you guys have some answers. And I'm willing to, back you guys on that. Cause tell you the truth, when Yeshua embarrassed G-Con, I was on his side. But when I got attacked on Berean show, that's when I had a problem. Right. And so, I'm good with what y'all doing. And I think we should have had that conversation instead of going on Berean, because Berean is the author of mess.
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
People ask, I go up there because in the midst of the mess, somebody got to have a little voice of reasoning when it comes to our community. Because he'll go find the worst representative of our community to go up there, and then I'll be like, this is not how we're going to do it. We're going to make sure that we have the right representative up there. So he is the first one.
To just touch on your shoe real quick. Your shoe is very, very, very strong in this. This is his alley. This is, you come up that alley, and saying something that's not correct, he gonna jump on it. So I mean, I'm not defending, how anything might have went, but I'm just saying that once you touch on this subject and you saying something that is, have holes in it, he's going to, because of all of his teachings. We deal, he's part of Yaaap as well. We work under him, what I'm saying? We work with him, we speak on a regular basis. That's our brother. So, hopefully you guys can come to some kind of resolution as well.
Yeah. Don't take it too personally, because, Yeshua, he go after anybody. He went after Ron Dalton, even Garfield. Yeah, Garfield from Dagger Squad. What's that guy's name? G-Con?
Yeah. So the thing, I respect that.
Hold on, y'all's Yeshua is like Dante to us. Dante is not going to play with anybody.
Yeah.
I agree. He's very much like Dante. Yeah. He goes off on a tangent. He's not going to stop.
Oh, yeah. We can't
Dante.
So what was happening, at least the way I felt what was happening on Berean and on Orthodox, and in both cases, was they were trying to build this narrative and say we said it. And so when everybody listened, and they were trying to make us answer a question that on a statement that we never really made. We didn't make it. It was, they spinned it. And so I'm like, we're not saying that, but now I got to defend something I didn't say, right? And everybody think we said it. And so that's what caused that problem with Orthodox and things like that, and even on Berean. And, so I know, maybe you guys came in after the fact and heard their narrative and thought we said something we didn't say. And that's what frustrated us, is that now we're defending a straw man that we didn't create. So, I mean, obviously, I think out of this conversation, maybe you guys can see some of the issues we had, but, they had us defending a straw man.
With any of the issues. Yeah, we don't have any. See, having issues with something and having questions is one thing. Saying something definitively, will cause a knee-jerk reaction. So we totally understand where you guys were coming from. We like, your premise.
Yeah.
Your premise on what you believe and what you stand on. That's not an issue for us. That's not an issue.
Yeah, and if anybody ever like let's say you're on Berean TV and someone brings up DNA, I think it's best when it comes to stuff like that, just say, hey, we got Israelites in the field of genetics. Go talk to, Yeshua, or the Hebrew of Israel. Yeah.
Y'all
Like,
the experts. We gonna send them our way because we don't have
yeah,
anything to do with it.
I
yeah.
wouldn't say
Because
experts, but
I would.
we are versed.
Yeah, because
I wouldn't say experts, but we are versed because there's other people that especially like Lashu.
Yeah,
Like
because they're
like
going
I'm
to try
saying,
to.
so
My bad. I'm gonna make this quick. They're going to try to get y'all again. TOTW. Like they're going to try to bring up DNA when y'all are on the panel. So I'm just saying, like in the future, be
Oh,
like,
we'll never be on Berean
and even
again.
Orthodox more,
We'll never be on Berean
right?
again.
Even Orthodox more, he's
yeah.
strong.
No,
Even
go ahead,
Orthodox
Sean.
more, he's very strong. I'm sorry. Even Orthodox more, he's very strong when it comes to DNA. And also James Cassell, somebody I've never heard of.
I have no respect for Orthodox because Orthodox once again try to do a Naboo, right? Try to misrepresent, like Minister Teotw said, straw man, right? He tried to make us say something,
Understood.
And I have no respect for him.
Understood. Understood, but I'm just saying he's strong. Hold on, sister. Understood, but I'm saying he's very strong in DNA as well. And there's somebody else that you guys haven't heard of, James Cassell, who actually was on Berean Channel with Yeshua and Ivry the night they went and washed G-Con. G-Con was a no-show, and Kevin G stayed on the platform and got served up really bad. So James Cassell as well. These are brothers in the field that are very, very strong in the field, and we definitely listen to them when they speak.
Hello.
What happened to Sean?
And I've definitely conferred to some of the brothers.
So my thing is this: when we're dealing with the DNA and we're dealing with the prophecy, we understand who.
You hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Oh, you're back, Sean. I'm sorry.
We hear you.
Yeah, I was saying that James. Yeah, I was saying that James Cassell also is another strong brother that we listen to in this. So, listen, we're not experts, but we do study on a regular basis and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you can always have people, Genesis 49ers or Sister Sherry's channel or Evie's channel, and they can learn they could get whatever information they can from there. Because a lot of questions will be answered if you just listen to some of the videos, just like with you guys. A lot of prophecy stuff. If somebody, I always direct them to you. Like their question, I'll say, go check these brothers, and in their dossier of videos, of lives, of videos, you're gonna find your answer in there.
Yeah, everybody has their niche in Israel. It's kind of like that example of the body of Christ. You got the feet, hands, toes, legs, all that other stuff. Like everybody has a strong suit. Like the Divine Prospect's strong suit is finding the Hebrewisms in West African culture. Or, someone like Zion Lex strong suit might be the language of Israel, stuff like that. Y'all's strong suit is prophecy and finding, black Portuguese Jews and stuff like that. Ours is, genetics. So everybody forms the body of Israel with these different body parts, these different strong suits we have.
And the thing,
and I put it like this.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I put it like this. When Dante came out with all his history and his page and everything like that, people were like, "Oh no, you can't prove it with history. Prove it with the Bible. You prove it with the Bible. Teotw Ministries proved it emphatically with prophecy in the Bible." Then they say, "Oh, here go the DNA," and then that's where we come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we shut them down. They're gonna move to another goalpost, and we're gonna be ready for them.
The key to this goalpost move, we got to be careful when they start slandering. I had to kind of say something to Abu today on Berean's channel. He started with the whole cats thing. Everybody know how bad that cats thing happened. The way we need to ensure that we shut it down is when people start throwing that up. My go-to has been, that's not a conversation piece for me to handle. We need to direct that to majors. Let majors handle it. So if cats come up again, that's not our discussion point, I would say, and just send them right to majors.
Agreed.
I agree. I don't even touch that. I have my own view on the pews. I leave it at that. That's for Brown and them to deal with. I don't like how that whole thing went down, so I don't even discuss it.
I don't need them. People don't realize that, and this is just between us. Me and Majors have not talked since then. I don't even talk to Majors.
None of us talk to Majors.
Yeah, none of us do. But because,
to be honest with you, I don't even go to his channel no more.
Oh yes,
I don't even.
Yes. But because
I've totally, because of repentance. If the brother came and spoke to us, he don't have to do it with everybody. You know what I mean? But if y'all had a live, not even a live, but a StreamYard discussion, and he repented for it and made it clear and repented even on a live because it was done live, then we could go back to square one. But until that time, I'm not dealing or touching with that situation.
Yeah, and it's an ugly topic to, and the reason why people are like, well, E, why don't you blast him? Right now, our community is still rebuilding from this incident. Me blasting Majors publicly because again, I'm 95% sure think that Majors is live, but I still don't have that 5%. I need that 5%.
Yeah, we don't want to impart Berean because Berean is nasty. Berean act like he want truth, but he's really looking to tear down our evidence.
So the slandering is coming. Just be prepared. That's all I gotta say. Let's come.
I mean, when you guys get out there, be careful how y'all move with Berean because he'll set you up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I won't go back to.
We don't go on this channel.
Yeah,
we've been saying that. We might listen in every once in a while if we hear somebody's over there. We'll listen in, but ain't we don't report that because I don't like how Israel jumps on a lot of Israel jumps and make us look bad, make us look foolish. Like you're not learned, so why are you up even talking?
Yeah, it'll be a while before I come back.
We stay away from that.
Yeah, it'll be a while before I go back to Berean. Like after that debate with G-Con and LeRon and them, I was like, I said what I had to say, And
Kevin G is trying to rear his head again. I'm just letting y'all know.
Wait, he did what now?
He's trying to rear his head back up again. I saw him.
Well, he don't want this walk. He don't want this dry and fold cycle I got for him. He gotta go sit down.
He back though, y'all. He was in the chat today.
What did he say?
He was arguing with Second Exodus about you can go look at the chat about history. So he is going back and forth with Second Exodus, and I kind of caught it. So Kevin G is the type that he'll hide for a little minute and he'll come back.
Did he say anything about DNA?
He did talk about DNA. He did mention DNA in the chat. So he's getting ready. I'm just letting y'all know he's going to rear his head. And if he rears his head, Rena's going to pull him in.
Let me ask you guys, how painful is it to hear G-Con talk about DNA?
Oh my God! I was just about to say before you jumped on, bro, that we listened to that dude. It's like we say this all the time. We've never seen two people that don't have no problem making themselves look foolish on a daily basis, discussing the same situation that they got washed on. Kevin G and G-Con are the most, I don't know, these are the most stubborn. If I went to war and these dudes can reanimate every time they die, I would take these dudes to war with me. Because that's how they are. These dudes are like crash dummies. They crash dummies. They are crash dummies for real. It's painful, but we try to ignore them. We hope that the people, after seeing they washing, we hope that the people see it and listen to them and take what they say with a grain of salt. So we don't even approach them no more with anything.
Yep, but it's coming. It's coming. The slander is coming. They ain't done yet. That's why I said we do a public thing that y'all say y'all have united. Oh, they not done yet. Oh, they're not done. That's just that's the way that they move. That's why I sit on those panels, and I don't, like I said, I mentioned it again. People are like, "E, why are you up there?" Because I need to see what's going on and see what's coming because it is coming. They're not done. Abu is back. G-Con is back. Jet Kevin G is back. And I said, oh, they're aligning. And Abu, like he said, plan was to cause us to fight amongst each other. Understand, because we're not fighting, he's going to find something else. That's just the nature of Abu.
Is Vocab Malone back? Because I saw a video that he did on a pod.
He just did some Babylon B.
Yeah, Babylon B, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he was back. He ain't been around since Dante beat the brakes off him. So this is gonna be interesting to see if he gonna rip his head again.
And I think also he's been posting on his YouTube channel lately. So I think he is slowly coming back, but it's slow. And he was not. You know how he tries to sort of seem like BHI, some are bad, some are good. On that Babylon B video, he kind of made it seem like we were all a cult.
Oh, wow.
Like he wasn't even lenient at all, like he normally tries to be,
And it's interesting you're saying that because that's what they're leaning towards now. And I'm glad you said that they're trying to make it seem as if we're a cult. Because if you see that, I think that's the same thing we were looking at, the other guy that they did a video guy about, the white guy with vocab. The last question on that video that they did was, are Hebrew Israelites a cult or are they Christian? So they're getting up to try to make us a cult.
I guess that depends on the definition of Christian.
Yeah, that's one important question. For one, I think we should adopt a similar attitude that the Jewish community has towards Christianity. Who cares? Like, who cares about what these crazy people have to say?
Yeah.
We need our own ADL.
We actually need to
I
start
like that.
we actually need to start accessing and utilizing things like the ADL. Start to actually identify as Jewish and use their own tools to subvert for our own benefit.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
That is. I think
Think about it. If you self-identify as a Jewish Israelite, not black, a Jewish Israelite with Hebrew ancestry, and they say something about you, you can pin them on anti-Semitism.
You know what? What's interesting is me and everybody knows that me and Kelly ain't really been talking lately, because the major thing just threw everything into a tizzy. He did mention that right before everything transpired, going towards the ADL movement and making it a rule that you can't say anything about us, and it would shut everybody's videos down if they attempt, old videos that tag them as anti-Semitic. So that would be interesting if everybody made their move.
Yeah.
I don't really be called Jewish though. We Israelites, so I understand what you're saying.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. We are Israelites, so I agree with that.
I mean, if you're from the tribe of Judah, or if you adhere to the kingship of Judah, then you fall under that tribe. And to be Jewish, we shouldn't be spooky about it when it comes to the fact that white Jews have had it for so long. If they, especially when the fact that is that when they got there, they were black.
Yeah, but ish is of or like something.
No,
right?
no,
we are the people.
No, stop. That's English.
Hold on. Let me introduce Rue real quick. Hold on. Let me introduce.
We already introduced it, but that's not even the top of the conversation. We're talking DNA and other stuff. So
yeah.
Great idea, but I don't want us to argue over something. So
Rue is in school. Hold on. Rue is studying in rabbinical studies. He's making great progress in that. So, he is our when it comes to dealing.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Sean, where are you? In the bathroom?
Hello?
His wife got him in the basement.
Hello?
She sent you to the basement again, Sean?
Yeah, you in the Matrix, man. I cannot hear you.
He's somewhere.
But what I was just going to say is that ish in Hebrew means
I'm going to have to text him.
person. And Jew is literally just a shortening of Yehudi. So to call yourself Jewish is just to say that you are a man of Jewish ancestry, or of Jew ancestry.
Is that based on Yehuda? Is that based on Eliezer ben Yehuda's Hebrew, or
no,
Paleo?
Eliezer ben Yehuda's Hebrew would be considered modern Hebrew, and that is a sub-branch to what would be considered medieval Hebrew, which is a sub-branch of Mishnaic Hebrew, Mishnaic Hebrew, which is a sub-branch of what we would call biblical Hebrew. And biblical Hebrew is what was instituted after the return of the Babylonian captivity by Nehemiah and Ezra.
Well, Eliezer ben Yehuda, even on you can find online, is that he blended some Hebrew with Yiddish and a couple of other languages.
Yeah, but there's clear differences. It's not the same thing. Like, if you actually know Yiddish, if you actually understand the different words that were blended in, it's not a grammatical or linguistic change from Hebrew to another language. It's an addition of certain words that weren't in the Hebrew dialect that were needed in order to fill out the modern form of the language. I'll give you an example. A word like stadium isn't in the ancient Hebrew. So they had to create a new form that was based off of the Spanish word. So, but when we're talking about modern Hebrew, its actual root is what we would call the Yemenite Hebrew, which by all scholarship is the most true form of Hebrew. So,
But there's a video out there on Eliezer Ben Yehuda. It breaks down how he created the new language, and it's not Shemitic.
I've seen the language. I understand what you're talking about, but I'm saying the video is wrong, and we shouldn't take one video and erase an entire history of language. Language evolves over time. We don't speak the same English that we spoke 400 years ago. So
Well, go ahead.
So why would Hebrew stay stagnant? There's a difference in the Hebrew that Moses spoke between Moses and Abraham. They didn't speak the same Hebrew.
Yeah, I personally consider that Yiddish brew actually, and if when I'm looking for our original language, I'm looking at those Israelite tribes that have been documented as being Israelites in West Africa, like that, right? Even the Dakota had Saba for Sabbath. They have a bunch of languages. Bunch of words that match.
Oh yeah,
you'll
find hundreds of thousands of words all throughout Africa. Every African has some form of Hebrew or Afro-Asiatic in it.
Right, but they're pronounced differently.
Lou, I would love for you to talk to Shanti whenever you get a chance. I would love for us to do a live. Have you ever heard of Shanti?
Who?
Shanti. She actually more knows who she is.
Shanti Doc. Yeah, I know her. Shanti Doc, yes. I know who she is.
I would love for y'all to have a conversation.
Divine Prospect. Oh, my bad. You can finish.
No, I'm just saying she's pretty
Divine
good.
Prospect.
Yeah, Divine Prospect's pretty good.
Also, Zion Black.
But Shanti, and I don't mean to interrupt, but Ron Shields actually validates Shanti Doc. So
yeah, no, I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying.
Can you put her link in the chat, sister?
We should be.
Yeah, I co-sign Shanti as well. I co-sign her because she's done great work. And that's another thing. I wish people would watch. There's a series that Hook and I did with Sam Addison called Letters to Galatian. The Letters to Galatian. It's a 4-part series concerning. It's very old. It's a few years old. I was in the room when they did that live. I pushed it. I promoted it. A lot of people, and if a lot of Israel would listen to that, they would get an understanding, and even Christians would get an understanding of oral law, oral Torah versus, oral law versus Mosaic law. It's a really good series. I'll put the link in the chat, and I would suggest that everybody here just give it a watch.
Yeah, somebody
find it really interesting.
Somebody put a link of her. I want to check her out.
Okay, let me get this link, and I know I got to cut out in a little bit, so I know we'll end it.
I gotta go too.
Yeah,
I'm saying
it's
shalom to the family. I got class. I gotta go. My kids are calling me, so this is really awesome. I hope we could do it again. Reach out to me, anybody, whoever. If you want to talk, questions, I'm open. The door is always open. Love you, and I will talk to you guys later.
All right, shalom, Shari. Good work with school.
All right.
Here's her link right here.
13, right about the love, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's her link because she was last on.
I want to check her out.
She did something. I don't know.
All right, guys. I appreciate the dialogue. It was good.
Yep. So,
yeah, agreed.
Thanks,
also,
guys.
by the way, before everybody heads out, are we going to make a Facebook post, a united Facebook post that we're all cool and that we're all going to work together and we're going to do the DNA thing and y'all going to do what y'all were doing for the past 2 years? Is that what we're going to do on Facebook? So everybody knows that we're
that's
good.
fine.
Somebody can make a post and we'll just comment.
Yeah, we're going to just refer people to you guys on DNA. And if we want some dialogue, we'll just bump y'all and talk about it. That's all.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear before we head out because I got to leave too. I got to eat.
Thanks, guys. I got to eat too. Thank y'all.
Yeah, all right, fam. Same here. Shalom. Shalom to Yaakov. Shalom to Minister Teotw. Sister E, thank you.
Shalom.
All right, shalom, y'all.
All right, shalom.
So I think I seen this story, but I don't remember where it was in theaters. I had no idea it was about an evil Superman.